Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. If you've been with us for a while here in the Bird's Nest, or if you're a first time, I'm really excited about today. Elisa Marten, CEO, founder, entrepreneur of Revenue Mate, is our guest. She is literally within, again, the first 90 days of owning a business. Tremendous story about coming through her journey of her career, how she ended up here, even the story of her first client, I think you're going to find compelling. So, with that, Alyssa, how are you today?
Doing really well. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Super excited to be here, right? And you are a Packer fan, so we'll start off. Anybody in Wisconsin, right, can just tune in now, right? And if you're from Chicago, then you can hit the stop button, right?
Yeah,
So
I agree.
that's all right. Well, look, I do want to. Well, first of all, thank you for doing this. I
Mhm.
know starting a company is not easy. The journey, the trials, all the fun stuff that come with it, and me reaching out and going, oh, by the way, do you want to come and hop on and chat? And you were like, literally off the bat, said yes, let's do it. So thank you for that. Um, Before we go anywhere on this, I have to go to a story that I think will tell people a little bit about you. Pumpkins. So, so I know you went, it was door to door, correct? On this.
Yes.
Now, you had medical, and I'm going to go into that and stuff, but you went door to door basically telling people, hey, I'll set up pumpkins for you outside your house, correct? And
Yes.
then you were so
Correct.
cool with this, which I thought was great. You got a check and you took a picture of it and you posted it up and go, hey, man, look what I just did, right?
hmm
So, can you spend 30 seconds on like that whole thing of how you were going door to door selling pumpkin displays for people's, houses?
Yeah. So I was actually for business storefronts is what I actually ended up doing for the pumpkin displays. So, long story short, I've always been interested in business and whatever it may be, I think of an idea and I just want to try it out. I actually saw someone else on the news doing it out of Texas. And so she had been doing pumpkin displays for homes in the suburbs.
Okay.
And so I live in a very small town, rural Wisconsin, and it's very touristy, especially in the fall. They do fall festivals. And so I thought, oh, I know for certain the town that I live in, they love to decorate for Christmas. But, there's not a lot of fall decorations happening. And so I was like, I'm just going to go to these storefronts. We have a festival coming up this weekend. I'm going to ask if I can set up these pumpkin displays in front of their storefront. And so I just truly, I threw a flyer, had them printed out at Walgreens. My mom actually drove me around because I was very intimidated. And so, moral support, my mom drove me around, would drop me off, and I could run into these stores. And so, I truly, actually, I had a lot of people that were very sweet, very kind, and oh, that's such a cute idea. I'll give this to my manager. I'll let my boss know. And then one of the storefronts the owner happened to be there. And so I pitched it to her and she loved the idea. She thought it was really cute. And so, yeah, she wrote me that first check that was in that picture. And then that next day I ran and bought a bunch of pumpkins and hay bales and made up a little display. In fact, maybe I'll have to post a second picture to that post, which is the
Oh,
actual
yeah.
storefront, the display. I'll have to do
So your
that.
mom's drive. How long ago was this? Like a couple of years or like
This was just a few months ago, actually. So this
I
was just
love
this recent
I love
fall.
the fact your mom's driving you around, right?
Mhm.
That's just
She
this
was.
reminds me of like being like 12 when you're like selling candy for like the softball or baseball teams, right? So
Yeah.
what I mean, all right, so I said we go into your career path, but I have to ask, what got you to do that? Like, was it just, hey, I want to go make some extra, or hey, you know what? I think I can do this. Let me go give it a shot. Like, what was like the urge to go do that?
Yeah, I think part of it is just I want to learn business. And so that's really a my story right now is just I want to learn business and I want to put myself in a position where I'm pitching people live and whether it's cold calling or door to door. And I also like to decorate. I love the holidays and the seasons. And so I think part of that I saw it as an idea and I don't know, I think I just did it because I knew it would work. And
Yeah.
I just had more so the urge to like do something that um I could sell a product or a service and have that success, and maybe less about I was really interested in making the pumpkin displays,
In
which, and I don't mean
pumpkins,
that,
right?
yeah, and I don't mean that to sound bad. It's just like that's truly like my mentality is that if I think of an idea, I just want to try it out and see what happens.
Well, look, I thought it was great. I had to start there because I thought it gives people an idea of kind of who you are, and I think
Mhm.
it's a good segue here in terms of like you said you want to learn business, which is not where you started, right? So
No.
I'm going to take you back here a little bit.
Mhm.
You had a, I would say, a career path that was going way up in terms of medical, right? You
Mhm.
had done research papers, you had done your thesis,
Mhm.
you're in a
Mhm.
cardio unit, you
Mhm.
are, heading to a medical career that was going to be, if you said, hey, what are the steps for a medical career? You were kind of hitting it along the way.
Mhm.
And then you just literally hit the pause button and said,
Yep.
nope, I'm not even going close to that. I'm going to shift out of healthcare right into an SDR role. So
Mhm.
let's go back in terms of that decision. What what made you go that route? What made you hit the brakes on years and years of that work and go into something that was brand new?
Yeah. It was not an easy decision. I want to pause there on that fact alone. And I would say that it's taken the last 2 years to finally start to feel confident in that decision that I made and to grieve it even because I truly spent 4 years where all I thought about every second of the day for 4 years straight was I cannot wait to be a doctor. I can't wait to serve people. I love the science of medicine. I love like hands-on healthcare. And so when I made that decision, I just want everyone to know it was really such a hard decision. And it took 2 years up till this point now that I'm starting to feel like I have a more sense of direction now since that. Um, and so, yeah, I guess what made me make that decision, it was honestly, it just came down to I started the application to medical school, and so I think I had, had this fantasy in my mind of like, oh, I'm going to go to medical school. It's going to be so exciting. And then once reality started to set in and I started to realize how much debt I was going to be in. And alongside that, it was also, okay, I'm going to go into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt for the education alone. Not only that, but then you also need to pay for a car and food and shelter. So it's like, okay,
Live.
that's to live. Yeah. So it's like, okay, and clothes. And so I was like, okay, that's additional debt that I'm going to have to take out because you can't work during medical school. And then it was, I'm going to be not working for at least 4 years. And so then that's 4 years of not having income. And so that's lost money in my mind as well. And then that's not even considering then you want to go into residency and fellowship. And so I got to this point where I laid it all out and I thought, I truly believed that I was either going to be $1 million down the drain or in the next 4 to 6 years, I could be $1 million up. It's like $1 million deficit. Like I truly was so convinced that that's what I was facing. And unfortunately, I wasn't a sacrifice or a risk that I personally was ready to make. And you know, I think others are able to handle that risk. I had also spent most of my 20s like so broke, living on grant money and working as a nursing assistant that I also got to the point where I was like, I just want to start working and make a living. And so
Yeah.
I made that decision. It was not easy, but I am really happy with where I'm at now.
Good. I mean, I know just from family experience, having a daughter look
Mhm.
at healthcare and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden pivot, not to the point of where you were, right?
Yeah,
But definitely within, through the last years of high school into the beginning of college and the first couple years, and all of a sudden it's a right turn. And I think anytime you
right.
take a right turn in life, there's a piece of adjustment. And I'm
Yep.
sure, and it sounded like it took years a bit, but it sounds like we're in a good place now. It sounds like we're in a place of being, being in a movement, or moving forward is probably the best
Yep.
way to put it. But
Mhm.
then, okay, so we come out of, you hit the pause on medical, and that's an ongoing process and probably
Mhm.
just now there. But during that process, then you say, okay, what next? Right? Because
Mhm.
now your world's wide open. You can do whatever you want to do at that point of time.
Yeah.
What made you go into the SDR route and start that whole trajectory that you're on now?
Yeah. So what it actually started was, and maybe this isn't as clear on my LinkedIn, my first sales job was actually in medical device. And
Okay.
so, yeah, I essentially it's fall time 2 years ago. I make the decision to no longer continue the application process to medical school.
Yep.
I just start going on Reddit and online and what should I do? I have all this medical expertise and I also want to build a career and make money and landed on medical device sales. It was
Yep.
I felt like it was the most natural transition where I could take all
Hmm.
these years of experience and apply it to a different uh, scenario. And so I actually, my first sales job was medical device. I was selling a device called a pupilometer, and all it did was measure your pupil reaction to light and had all these neurological implications. And so I did that. I landed the job and started going into hospitals selling this device. And I actually only ended up working that job for a few months. I just couldn't do it. When I was at the hospitals, I just had so much resentment maybe where it was like this
Hmm.
isn't the side of the conversation I want to be on, and I would be at the hospitals and I'd be like looking into the patient's rooms and looking at the doctors, and it was too hard psychologically because I it wasn't where I didn't want to be the salesperson coming in. I still at that point was like I really wanted to be the doctor. And so yeah, I quickly exited out of that and then transitioned into tech sales. And so that's how I got into tech sales, and then did that. And then that's kind of when I learned cold calling for the first time, which was, never in my uh, life would I ever thought that I would have become passionate about cold calling. But I got into the tech sales role. I found out that people just call people and ask for business and ask for their time, and then it works. And then you can like source thousands of dollars in business opportunities just from picking up the phone. And so that's kind of how that natural progression came about.
So you say natural progression, but you had posted up, hey, look, I have anxiety over calling people right now. Now
Yeah.
you're doing it as your own business, right? So what was that switch? Like there's some points of your life which is it's just becoming clear
Hmm.
that you make it's a pivot, right? You
Hmm.
go from medical into business and you're like med device, like no, this is a constant reminder that
Hmm.
of this pivot, which makes total
Hmm.
sense.
Hmm.
Um, but then you go from, and like a lot of people, you go
Hmm.
from, hey, cold call, ugh, do I really have to, oh my God, yes. How did that occur? Like, how did that pivot occur for you?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'm not just saying this, I had such bad anxiety when it came to cold calling to the
Yep.
point where I'd be laying in bed in the morning, anxious about the moment that I had to get on the phone for the day.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know how it came about. I think that I've always been someone that I like to challenge myself and to, overcome different obstacles in my life. And so at some point, I start going online, I find a cold calling coach. He starts
Hmm.
mentoring me. At some point, I don't know. I think I knew it was something that was giving me a lot of anxiety. I knew I had to do it in order to do well at my job and to keep my job. I also wasn't in a place where I wanted to lose my job because I was very excited about the opportunity. And so I think something in my mind just switched where it was like, I know that if I do this enough and just push through this discomfort, that I'll get to a point where it no longer is bothering me. And so that's really what I did. And I just trusted the process and trusted, like, hey, if I do this every day for 3 months, I think I'll get at the point where I don't wake up with anxiety anymore. And it really is true. Slowly I started to feel less anxious about it. And I still get a little nervous on the phone, but not to where I'm laying in bed, can't get out of bed. um, and so, yeah, I think once I got through that, then it was a very rewarding experience. And this is where I start to tell people everyone should cold call because it no longer was about cold calling, it was about self development. And I just proved to myself that I could do something that was extremely uncomfortable, go through that discomfort, and come out on the other side. I was very proud of myself. I learned how to speak better. I learned how to, not have fear and give up. And so I don't know. I just think that like that self development was really rewarding aspect of it for me. And I honestly think that that's kind of where that switch came in.
Man, that's a whole lot right there. And
Mhm.
this is where I dive in. Remember when I said before we came on, I said, I'm gonna dive in on a certain
Yeah.
point. This is it. So you said if I can do it for 3 months and learn to push through and go to a place that just, I'm gonna push through. I'm gonna get there mentally.
Mhm.
That to me reminds me a lot of like athletes do
Sure.
of there's different elements like people
Mhm.
who practice like the piano or something of like I
Mhm.
have to, I will get there, right? Like
Yeah.
true dedication. Did
Mhm.
you have that previously in your life? Did you have like you knew how to go to that place? I guess is my question. How did you have that in your past that you knew you had to go to that place mentally?
Yeah, I competed gymnastics competitively for 18 years, and so you're spot on with that. So, and in fact, I didn't really think of it that way until you mentioned that is probably where that competitiveness came out, as well as this is an opportunity to challenge myself and to grow. And, everything that you're saying, that's definitely, yeah, did gymnastics, and then also used to be a runner, and same thing. It's like I used to not be able to run a mile. And then it was like, I know I can run a mile. And then you do that. And then it's like, oh, well, now I want to go run 3 miles, And so, yeah, lots of sports growing up in my family. I'm just growing up in a big family as well. So,
There you go. And speaking of sports, I know, the Packer fan right there, I mean,
exactly.
that's like, you have to go to that place mentally for playoffs, right? Like, we're locked
Always.
in, that's what it feels like. So then you also said, though, you hired a coach.
Hmm.
Now, that's not, I would tell you, I haven't done it in my career, right? And I've
Hmm.
been, I've been doing it a long time. You did it early on.
Hmm.
And so really, I want to understand that because that's intriguing to me. When you go and hire this coach, how long were you in that job when you said, "Hey, I need somebody external"?
I truly think maybe within the first month, and that's in considering the first 2 weeks you're not even on the phone. I
Right.
truly think after the first 2 weeks, you do your training and everything. I'm on the phones. I really think within the first 2 weeks of being on the phone, I had went and found a coach because
Wow.
of how bad it was giving me anxiety, and and because I knew I had to do it in order to keep my job. And so I also just knew I needed the support. And you know what's interesting? When I got on the coaching call, I told them, I said, I don't necessarily need coaching on how to cold call. I need coaching on like the mindset behind cold calling because
Oh, I
that's what's
love
holding
that.
me back right now.
Oh, I love that. So, all right, so I'm gonna ask you for 10 seconds there. So
Mhm.
if somebody's listening to this and says, "Hey, you know what? I don't have anxiety about cold calling, but I don't love it," or maybe I just have days where I'm like, I don't want to be here. I have to make the calls. We've all been in that mode. You mentioned mindset, which I love.
Mhm.
What did you take away from that coach that you still apply in terms of mindset today?
Yeah, he was probably the first person that initially actually told me that, hey, eventually you'll get more comfortable with this. It was also someone that had years of tech sales experience. And so he was able to say, like, hey, Alyssa, like this works. Like you can hit your quota from cold calling. It works. It's worth it. And taught me that 90% of cold calling you can be successful on by just consistency and volume. So
Hmm.
he helped me have just those reminders in my back pocket that I was able to then carry on those hard days when it's getting difficult, just saying this is part of the game, this does work. Volume and consistency, and one thing that he also taught me that I will carry this as well, to um to not, how do I explain this? He taught me to not even, whenever I do book a meeting, he was like,
Hmm.
train yourself to not like be excited and get that excitement. But even when you book a meeting and exciting, remind yourself to just stay even keel. I don't know the right way to put it,
Yeah, that's
because you're
perfect.
just training your mind that the lows don't affect you and the highs don't affect you. And it's really just staying that middle ground of staying consistent. And like that's where the success actually is.
I love it. I love that.
Mhm.
I think you said it better than I could have, right? You stay in this zone where it's like, I'm just going to kind of keep doing my thing no matter what happens, high, low.
Mhm.
Um, I'm consistent. And it also sounded
Mhm.
like that person gave you this little bit of self-talk, this little positive
Yeah, the self
self-talk that
talk. Absolutely.
you can just, you know, pull on at any moment of time. If you need it, you grab it
Mhm.
and then you go. I love
Absolutely.
that. I think that right there, no matter what else, that right there that you invested in a coach early on, what they provided you with mindset and positive self-talk and not too high, not too low. I love that. All
Yeah.
right. So now here's a story that when I read it, I had to reread a few times. You go from the SDR, from that lying in bed, scared person
Hmm.
to, oh, by the way, I'm going to start my own business.
Hmm.
Now, I want you to tell the story and don't skimp here because I think it's a great story. You told the story of your first client, right? So you start your business. We don't have a client yet. We have zero revenue.
Hmm.
If you could share that story of that first client, I think that goes a long way of just kind of telling who you are. So I'll turn that to
Yeah.
you on this one because you know where I'm
Okay.
going.
Yeah. Yeah. This story really does excite me. And I feel really grateful for how it played out because I know that for anyone starting their first business, maybe they don't get that luck as quickly as I did. But so essentially, what happened is I start seeing this business model on LinkedIn. I see a few other people that are doing it. And I, again, similar with the pumpkin business, we're just like, oh, I could do that too. That's a way to generate
Yes.
revenue. And so it's about to be March 1st. And I tell myself over the weekend, I said, in the month of March, I'm going to land my first client. So I spend Saturday, Sunday. As straightforward as that could be, I go to Indeed and I just type in like appointment setters, cold calling, businesses that are already hiring for this service. I manually make a spreadsheet. I find their profiles on LinkedIn, source mobile numbers. Monday, it's like March 2nd, I think is Monday. And I told myself, okay, every day at my lunch hour, I'm going to cold call these people, this list I just made, and try to source my first business opportunity. I feel very lucky that it came about this way. That very first Monday, this is not a joke. I could call my mom. She was the first person that heard from me. I call, I start calling that list. I get like 20 phone calls in. Someone answers. He's the director of sales at this company. I pitch myself. It was not the most beautiful thing ever. And he says, well, we're actually about to hire someone this week. Like, we already have two candidates. We're down to two candidates. Why would we go with you? And I just told him, like, well, is it at least worth a conversation? I have years of experience. And then he comes on and he says, well, we've actually gone with an agency before, but they ended up hiring foreign labor and like for our industry, that's not, something that we can do. And I was like, look, it's me on the phones. You're getting me, you're hiring me, you're paying for my service. And so I booked the meeting for myself on Wednesday of that week. So we meet Wednesday, and I come super prepared to have the conversation that they're already going to hire someone internally. Why would they outsource and pay me higher? I'm going to ask for more than what they would want to pay for. And so I have that meeting, 30-minute discovery sales call. And that day they said, yeah, we want to go with you. And again, I literally had no website, no, I didn't even know how to price myself. I really truly I had nothing. All I had was myself and my skill set. And they were like, yeah, we want to go with you. We'll pay the price that you pitched. And I just went on Stripe. I made an account and sent them an invoice and they paid it. And then Monday of that following week, I started working with them.
So just to get this right,
Yeah.
on the Monday, you go, well, over the weekend, we kind of
Hmm.
put this plan in place, right? So we spend the hours, and I think that's when I saw the video of the web or the was it Canva for the RM and
Yep.
you had your logo, right? So we do that. We call on Monday. We have a meeting Wednesday. They pay the
Hmm.
invoice by, let's say Wednesday or Thursday, and you
Yep.
quit the following Monday. You're like, that's it. I'm starting my company. I did it.
No, not quite. So rewind a few steps. So I hadn't even had a logo and like the revenue mate stuff until May. And
Okay,
so this is March. So March, I land my first client, and my goal at this point is I'm going to keep my full-time job
got it.
and I'm going to onboard this client and I'm going to just have really good time management and handle both my full-time job and this client. And
Wow.
I did just that. And so essentially I, scheduled my time where I onboarded this client, started doing dial blocks during my lunch hour while working full time, and in March, I hit my quota, my sales quota for the company I was working at the time. And this is the screenshot I have of the dashboard, I went and booked this other company 15 meetings, and in the month of March alone. And so, and to be fair, I got really lucky with a company that had a very clear ICP, a very clear service offer. We're calling into auto body shops. These gentlemen were like super great to talk to. They loved me, and so I got lucky in that sense as well. But yeah, that's where things kind of took off. Because after March, going into April, I thought, okay, if I can handle these two, like certainly I can handle a business where this is my core offer, and that's what led me to where I'm at right now.
That's awesome. And you know what? You said something in that discussion with them on that first client. You said, "Hey, you get me."
Hmm.
Right? And I think that's so powerful because
Hmm.
that's what you were selling. You're like, hey,
Hmm.
look, you're not getting anybody else. You got me. This is what I
Hmm.
do. This is how we're going to work together.
Hmm.
And literally that confidence and that, kind of that rapport you had with them obviously hit.
Yeah,
Um, and that's not obviously lost. Like you saying that, I'm sure in that moment was even more powerful, right? So
sure.
that's, I mean, that's awesome. Okay, so
Yeah.
now we are 2 months in. Now that I have my
Hmm.
timeline, right? So now
Yeah.
we're 2 months in. We're 60 days in. Looking back, what's one lesson that you learned that you're like, if I could go back in time and do some stuff over again, what would I do different?
There's so many things I've learned so much. I'll
I'm good for more than one. Like, I
yeah.
mean, hey, just
It has not been all sunshine and rainbows, is what I've been telling everyone, and that I have made so many mistakes in the last few months. Um, let's see, one lesson. I think this one is most relevant. I had to drop a client last week
mm,
because I was at capacity. I said yes to them, even though initially my gut was telling me, Alyssa, I think you're pushing yourself just a little too much here. And I kind of went to people in my inner circle and they're like, never turn down money. And I'm like, you're right, I can do this. And then I signed them, they paid. I started the service, but I was a week and a half in, and I just had to say, like, hey guys, I am at capacity. I don't have the time right now to actually give your campaign and your business the time it deserves to be very successful. And so I had to end the contract and the pilot. I gave them 100% refund, but that's probably been the so far my biggest failure in this. And it hurts so bad to have to admit to that. And I was more disappointed that I didn't say no to them at from the get-go. That's where I was disappointed that I said yes, even though I felt like I knew I didn't have the capacity. Then went a week and a half in, and then had to, undo the agreement. And so that's one thing that I've learned is in anyone in this type of business is like we only have so much capacity, and you also want to provide good service. And so at times, especially for me right now, it's more important for me to slow down and provide really good quality service. And then now I can, in the next few months, maybe start thinking about how can I bring on another caller so that I can continue to say yes to new business. So that's my biggest learning lesson right now.
yeah. Your quantity over quality in terms of what you provide, right?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
making a name for yourself out there and getting a referral or
Hmm.
the testimonials and such like that and giving money back hurts, right? I like money. I don't
Does.
like handing money
Right.
back at right. I don't like handing money back at all. But good for you for admitting it and
Mhm.
not getting 2 months into this engagement and now we're even worse, right? I mean, stinks for the
Right.
company, but at least it's a week and not months into the process, which you kind of
True.
answered my question coming into this in terms of when you think like what's next. Do you think adding a person on is your next piece? You think that's the logical step given what you just said?
Yeah, I am not sure yet. I think part of me thinks, okay, I was able to go create demand and source for business opportunities since going for full time. Part of my brain is like, what's stopping me from making that 20 business opportunities
Mhm.
or 100, and like in the market, I'm telling you, the market for this is huge. Like there's not competition. There's people that are coming to me like, "Hey, should I do this?" Yes. Like I don't even think, I'm not even concerned about them being competition because the market is just so big for this. So I have had that thought process, and the only way to do that would be to bring on a caller. Then the other thought process is naturally the accounts that I've closed and have under my book of business right now are very specific kind of niche. And so part of me is like, should I double down on this, get really good results here, and then more move toward consulting like these types of
Mhm.
businesses? And, then I have another part of my brain that is like, oh, should I turn this into, a lot of people want to get into their first tech sales role. So do I bring in people, train them like I got trained, put them on my campaign so that they get real life experience, and then go and make a marketplace of people that I'm
Yeah.
training and, do some sort of like recruitment. So, truthfully, I don't have an answer right now other than I see a lot of opportunity and I haven't really figured out what my lane is going to be yet.
There's a company here in Raleigh who does exactly, and I'm vaguely familiar with them. I have like some
Okay.
connections of a connection, and it's
Hmm.
exactly that model.
Okay,
It's
cool.
the people you would hire somebody, they would call for a campaign, and
Okay.
then if that company who wants to hire that person who already knows their ICP, their messaging, their
Mhm.
core,
Right.
everything, if they want to hire them in, then they can do so at
Cool.
a discounted rate.
Right.
And if not, hey, that's fine. That person's still with you doing great, and now you go like
Right.
this, right? So you
Yeah.
kind of have this half recruitment, half
Right.
outsource, calling piece. And then at some point in
Mhm.
time, someone's going to stick with you and go, hey, I'm good. We're good. Let's just stay here and make money together and,
Right.
keep going, obviously, right?
Totally.
So you're thinking about the right way. And where my mind went was if you're at capacity and you can't hire anybody, is this
Mhm.
just, hey, can I raise my price a bit?
True.
If you have capacity or if you don't have capacity and they just are all in on you, okay, well, maybe there's a little bit of a room here to raise up a little bit and, probably have stickier clients with a little bit of a higher, price tag anyway, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that you raise a really good point there, and that's kind of where I'm at now is I have no idea what I'm doing in terms of actual like I'm just growing in my business acumen and um even pricing and like you're saying like, oh, now I have demand, now I can increase my price, supply. Yeah. So, yeah, that gives me another thing to think about now. So I appreciate that.
It's a fine line, right?
Hmm.
It's a fine line between the, you want to make it a no-brainer for them to come, but
Hmm.
you always hear if you have no pushback whatsoever,
Hmm.
well, then there's probably room.
Sure.
Right. And if you're really good in terms of it, and I think once you get your testimonials flowing and your referrals flowing, that price will probably
Mhm.
be an easy pickup, right, in
Yeah.
terms of what you could, of what you could do. All right, so
Great.
one question more, and then I want to just, end this off. But man, this is exceeded, and like I keep staring down at the time, going, damn it, 30 minutes flies. But so if you had to say, there's a lot of people, you've already said people are coming to you for advice and,
Mhm.
hey, you did this and I love your story and such like that.
Mhm.
So if you're sharing out there with someone who's listening and saying, hey, I have this idea, and maybe it's on appointment setting or cold calling, maybe it's on consulting, maybe it's whatever,
Mhm.
what would you share with them in terms of, starting a business, chasing something, going out on your own?
Yeah, I think my biggest piece of advice right now would be to, if you have an idea, that like close the gap from idea to execution. Close that gap. If you have an idea, if it's on your mind, execute it as quickly as you can because the actual execution is going to give you the direction that you're looking for. Because then you get immediate feedback. You see, yes, no, this doesn't work. Yes, no, I like it. And that would be my biggest piece of advice. If you have an idea, be very tactical about it, take execution, and then you're not going to get answers sitting in the pondering stage. Your answers are actually in the execution, and then that's where you get that redirection. And recently, I read a quote that was something about like it's easier to steer a boat that has sailed than it is that's tied down. And that's kind of the idea of like go out and do the thing, and then naturally you will have that redirection that you're looking for.
Let the market steer you,
Yeah,
right? The market's
exactly.
going to tell you. Market's going to tell you if it's a good idea or not,
Yeah,
right? And
exactly.
just like you're getting your feedback right now, going, "Hey, wait, there's a wide open market right here, and I'm already
Mhm.
at capacity." I mean, just to put this in perspective, and you probably don't have. You're probably going so fast right now that it's
Mhm.
hard for perspective. But
Yeah.
from my perspective, looking at this, just knowing
Mhm.
your story online, spending 30 minutes with you here, you're 2 months into your first business and you're at capacity.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty damn good. Like, no
Yeah.
joke. That's pretty damn good. So, all right. I did promise at the end. I always do this at the end with folks. We're a little bit long, so I'll just give you this. Give me your best memory of you and your family and the Packers.
Oh, it's so good. I'll tell you this. A couple of years ago, it was my birthday. This is the year that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. So not this most recent one, but the year before. My dad and my brother bought me Packer tickets. Packers versus Kansas City Chiefs, Lambeau Field, Sunday night football. It's the day or 2 days before my birthday. We go to the game. It's also like a night game, and so it's snowing. We're playing the Chiefs. The Packers beat the Chiefs. I have chills as we speak. It was just such
Love
a
it.
beautiful. So I guess that wasn't childhood because that was only a few years ago, but that's my favorite Packer
No, no,
story.
no. Hey, I didn't say childhood. Family,
Okay.
family runs still. You trust me, I'm not going to shift the camera. I got the
Yeah.
flag back there for my Eagles, right?
Yeah.
And we'll see. Well, look, this has exceeded
Mhm.
what I really wanted to get out of this. I hope it did for you. I have so many clips where I just want to take this 45 seconds and put it out there. And I'm excited to watch you on this one. I'm gonna follow it. I'm gonna hit that little bell thing so I see when you pop off of LinkedIn and share the wins or the ups and the downs and kind of keeping that mindset. But Alyssa, thank you so much. I really appreciate it and look forward to following along the journey with you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave. It means a lot.
Awesome. All right, everybody, take care. I got this one here. I got one here in a couple days. We're gonna push out in a few weeks. Be safe, everybody. Take care.